Afternoon, everybody. I've been watching and paying attention to how things are turning and how things are being spun, what people are saying, what the intelligent people are saying. I like to pay attention to former attorneys general and other people who have been in similar tight spots because it's interesting to hear what they think, especially when it's what I thought too. So neat. This 2 minutes with Don Martin, the cover up, the only conclusion, is very, very worth the watch. We're going to watch like 10 seconds here, and but you should watch the whole thing. His conclusion is fantastic. Here's just to wet your whistle. Go watch it. The link is in the description.
A feminist prime minister with an Indigenous reconciliation priority who profusely proclaims the respect for the law, rule of law, has decreed only he will speak on behalf of a widely respected Indigenous female politician who may have witnessed an illegal act. The Prime Minister who pledged transparency has scrubbed an MP investigations witness list clean of anyone who might deliver contrarian testimony. A leader seeking reconciliation is without Indigenous cabinet representation now. A source of international acclaim for his women's agenda has stood silently for a full week while aides anonymously trash-talked Wilson Rayble's character and conduct.
So I'll just leave it there, but the whole thing is absolutely well worth the watch, and it's fun to watch the center press abandon ship. Here's Peter Mansbridge tweeting, quote, "I won't blame the players or the coaches if the Leafs don't win the cup this year. I know whose fault it will be. It will be because Scott Bryson quit his cabinet post." And here's, I believe that's Naked Gun 33 1/3 or Naked Gun 1 or 2.5. Leslie Nielsen. Surely you must be joking. Here is the Quebec Premier, Francois Legault. And this is just, this speaks for itself. Watch till the end. You know what? We'll start halfway through because he's just kind of talking. No, we'll watch the whole thing. Watch right to the end because it's incredible.
Right now, if there's no settlement, it can take 2-3 years before we have a judgment, and in the meantime, SNC Lavalin cannot bid on public offers. Their reputation is not good. The stock has gone down. Right now, there's no controlling shareholder, so there's a real risk that this company be bought by somebody, for example, from UK, and for me, it would be a bad news for Quebec. I want to do all we can do to protect this headquarters and protect the thousands of good, well-paid jobs we have at SNC Lavalin. So we're not asking, and when I discussed that with Justin Trudeau, I'm not asking him not to punish SNC Lavalin. I'm just trying to say, can you settle as soon as possible in order that we keep the jobs? We need those jobs.
It's all about the jobs. We need the jobs. Can you settle right now? ASAP? Our stocks are sinking. Woo. Ouch. That's a month. So this is January 28th when it looked like things started to go sideways and the insiders heard. January 29th, boo, and a little rebound. And this was February 11th when things started getting really hot with this case. And then February 12th, that was a big drop, €2, big drop. So quite interesting. A low on Valentine's Day, 22.36. Wow. So, but they're trying to frame this as, don't look at the criminality, one, don't look at the change in the law in 2018 that the Liberals snuck in, and we're going to look at that in just a minute. Because I didn't mean to wallpaper over it. That's a huge part of the story. They changed the law. The Liberals, the governing Liberals, snuck in a change to the criminal code into the budgetary, Bill C-74. It's a budgetary prep bill, I guess. Everybody has to vote for it, right? So you'll find out in a minute. That's not me saying that. That's a former attorney general. And that's the problem. So here's the meat and potatoes of this video. The first, I'm going to show you a bunch of clips. This whole interview is well worth watching, and we're going to watch quite a lot of it. But the first 2 minutes are kind of background, laying out what's going on and what the problem is, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So here we go.
Well, the allegations concerning the Prime Minister's office, the former Justice Minister, and the charges against SNC Lavalin have raised a lot of concerns and a lot of eyebrows in Canada's legal community. Joining me now from Toronto is Michael Bryant. He's a former Attorney General of Ontario, and he's currently the Executive Director of the Canadian Civil Liberties Association. Mr. Bryant, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
I want to ask you, first of all, when you heard these allegations, when you first were made aware of the nature of the allegations of the Prime Minister's office allegedly being involved in trying to influence the charges against SNC Lavalin, what was your reaction?
Well, I wondered what the Prime Minister's response would be, and I wondered what the former Attorney General's response would be, because I knew that if true, these allegations are the kind of things that governments fall over. And
I want to stop him here just because I want to underline. That's the whole point of this interview. He is basically making the case for, if this is true, then it's corruption. If it's corruption, then that cannot stand. The government must fall. So that's the whole case. And it kind of gets lost in the weeds. They start talking, and it's all really relevant stuff. But I wanted to make sure you understand that the whole point of this is he's making the case that if these allegations are true, if what is being alleged, that the Prime Minister's office was putting pressure, and he explains, and we'll listen to what exerting political pressure looks like. And it sounds like what Justin Trudeau was describing, the quote, vigorous debate is or was around this SNC Lavalin. And the debate essentially was cast around, should we allow this company to break the law in order to retain these jobs in Quebec, or should we not allow this company to break the law, uphold the rule of law, which is one rule of law for the whole country, for everybody, for the bum on the street or the whoever, the young 18-year-old person to the richest multimillionaire or the prime minister, right? One rule for of the law for the country. Excuse me, sorry, my mouth is not cooperating. So here we go. I'm just going to carry on, but I wanted to make sure you understood.
And the first thing that jumped to mind is that I wonder if a police investigation is already underway or whether one will start soon. It's not for me or I think anybody else to say whether or not the police ought to investigate this. I'm not calling for an investigation. I'm just observing, not prescribing, that an investigation is probably underway because the evidence as it now is more than is to be found in many obstruction of justice charges that are routinely laid. And this government should know that people are getting charged with obstruction of justice for far, far less than this. But to answer your question, yeah, I thought, well, this is a constitutional crisis any way you look at it.
Okay, well, let's.
Okay, so constitutional crisis. So it doesn't matter which way you look at it. This is a big, big problem. It looks like the rule of law is out the window. Okay, so why is this a big deal? That's the next question here. Why is this a big deal?
The importance of this. Why are people getting so upset? What's at the heart of this then?
At the heart of it is whether or not anybody's above the law. What's at stake here is whether some people or corporations have one set of laws that they need to comply with, and then the rest of us have to comply with the other set of laws. What's at stake is whether or not political power can be brought to bear on a criminal prosecution. And the way our system is designed, that is not supposed to happen. Otherwise, you have a police state. We hear about how things operate in Russia, that friends of Putin are basically immune from criminal prosecution, and enemies of Putin are criminally persecuted. And that's how it works in a dictatorship. Well, that's not what we have in Canada. It doesn't work that way.
Okay, what about...
So that's what he's saying, that doesn't work that way, but kind of maybe looks like it works that way. That's what seems to be happening so far, right? So here's another, what's the problem with the process? What happened that's so beyond the pale?
Alleged intervention in this whole decision?
Well, I think there's two problems. One is that it was, we never debated this change to the criminal code. It was put into a budget bill, which guaranteed that it would not be debated. By putting it in the budget bill, it guaranteed that it would pass. It looks like an end run on the Department of Justice by putting in this new provision in a budget bill, because, you know, if you're a part of the government, you have to vote for the budget bill. Otherwise, you're expressing non-confidence in the government. The second thing.
So if they didn't vote for it, the Liberals would be bringing their own government down. So it's something that you trust your other ministers to not put something like this in to the bill because it changes the law, right? And you have to vote for it as a backbencher or whatever if you don't want to bring down the government according to the rules that we have.
And the problem is that the very office that determines the future of Jody Wilson-Raybould, who decides whether she's a cabinet minister or not, who hired her and can fire her, calls up about a particular prosecution. That is putting political pressure to bear on a prosecution, and that's corrupt and it's criminal if that's what happened.
Okay, the direct.
Okay, so corrupt, criminal, and he's describing basically what Justin Trudeau is describing in the last, you can watch my last video, I won't go through it again, but he's essentially saying there were vigorous debates on, you know, is this more about jobs or criminality, right? Should we add these tools? But really the crux of it is, why did you sneak it in a budget bill? Why didn't you allow the proper debate needed for criminal code changes, right? This is pretty incredible and pretty unprecedented as far as I know. And I could be wrong. Please do school me in the comments if other administrations changed laws without the justice minister introducing those changes. Okay, this is talking about bringing down governments.
This is the matter. This is the kind of thing that brings down governments. Why?
Because it challenges the rule of law and suggests that some people think that they're above the law. And I understand, you know, people in the Prime Minister's office have a lot of power. They have assistants and scheduling assistants and people to drive them around, and they can decide if somebody's an ambassador or a judge, and they can decide if someone's a cabinet minister or not. And they have enormous powers. And, you know, sometimes hubris kicks in and they think that somehow they're above the law, and that's not the way it works. You're not supposed to do that. And so the problem is if, you know, you've got a prime minister or prime minister office that think that they're above the law, it means that they're equivalent to a despot, that you know, we don't have an independent, democratically elected prime minister, but we have someone in there helping out his friends. And so it really proves. If these allegations are proven to be true, it suggests that the government is corrupt, and that's going to bring down a government. A corrupt government cannot stand.
Okay.
A corrupt government cannot stand. Is that what we've got in Canada? It's looking more and more like that's exactly what we've got in Canada. So, very interesting times. Much smarter person than me, the former Attorney General of Ontario, I believe. His name is Michael Bryant. Link is in the description. Check it out for yourself. Check out the People's Party of Canada.ca and have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. Thanks for watching, everybody.